Now, moving on in commerce, I've heard it spoken about that we live in a prepayment system, and prepayment is quite an interesting concept. Many people in this country, when they buy a mobile phone, it has credit on, so it means that they are prepaid in order to make calls. What does a prepayment system mean in the larger context of where we are today, given that we've got large centres of commerce behind us and we're operating in a bankruptcy situation?
Well, perhaps the word prepay is not the correct word. However, it's pretty accurate. As I mentioned, the system of whereas the citizens have the opportunity of discharge of public debt, that basically encompasses the concept of the prepay and so forth. There are also other things that happen in commerce which demonstrate prepay. Most people don't understand that when they give their signature to a corporation, the corporation can fund the account based on their signature. In the United States, a corporation that has an accountant who understands that can actually go to the Treasury and collect $2 million simply based on the signature on the application. So there are several situations where the prepay occurs. It's evidenced by the fact that we're operating in the bankruptcy, and one of the easiest evidences of it has been when you go and do a purchase where you use currency. The retailer will always give you a cash receipt.
Right.
In the United States, when, for instance, a promissory note is tendered to a bank, people have to remember that the promissory note is an asset to the maker and a liability to the bank. But the bank can use that note to fund transactions. The question is, where does the bank get the funds from? So I'm just showing you different things that demonstrate that all these things in commerce in our situation are all prepaid. And also, most recently, the tax return, the 1099 OID technology, which is being greatly suppressed in the United States.
Why is that being suppressed?
I think the IRS is greedy.
Right. Now, what does a 1099 OID process effectively do for an individual that's filing that?
The 1099 OID paperwork is to identify the principal to whom the interest needs to be returned.
So would that be myself?
Correct.
Right.
And so what's happening is that when funds go into the retail or many times go into the bank, see, all these things that happen in commerce should be passed back to the Treasury for the national debt. The banks retain those things, the retailers many times retain those things, and are holding them in a suspense account. And so the maker or the man is looked at as if he has abandoned the funds, because he's not claiming them, he's not using them, so therefore he's abandoning the claims. So those claims in admiralty maritime fall under salvage law, and so the banks are simply holding those things in a suspense account, until someone steps forward to claim them.
Is that what a 1099 OID process is there to do then?
Yes.
To claim back funds from the salvage suspense account?
Correct. And so the OID identifies the funds, and then there is a tax return. Now, most people don't realize that the title on the tax return form, it does not give you the whole title. The real title to the 1040 is return of interest to principal.
What typically is written there then?
It just says tax return.
Right.
And so again, the full title of the document is return of interest to principal, which is the method to go back and reclaim the value that has been put into the public by a man or a woman. And the people typically don't understand that, and they also don't understand how to properly fill out that form. But a 1040 form is simply a salvage claim.
So effectively, individuals that are watching this can study very deeply all of the things that we're talking about and effectively receive what is due to them as a principal back in terms of money or currency.
Correct.
And they can then, they're free to use that however they choose. But is it true that they must also pay tax upon that when they receive that back?
Okay, any tax accrues to whom?
I don't know.
Back to the principal.
So
regardless of how many times you use the same money, if it's a taxable event, the tax is the interest on the transaction, which will be returned in the next claim to the principal. All interest must go back to principal.
So theoretically, if everyone were to start using this technology, what effect would that have on the economy?
Inflation would go away.
There would be no more inflation. And that would be quite a good thing, I would think.
Yes. Inflation is a hidden tax because the inflation devaluates the value of the money which has been given to the people as a remedy or as a use. And so if you can stop the devaluation of the dollar or of the pound or whatever and stabilize, then we don't have these problems with competition and the constant seesaw that goes on in the retail world. So again, inflation is simply a hidden tax levied on the people. And so if you can do away with inflation, then all of a sudden a lot of the tax problems go away.
Is that one of the good things of the Basel III movement now?
I think it should evolve into that.
So if people are interested, then they should study the Basel III Accords, which are basically there to see proper accounting practice, bring all items back onto the balance sheet so that the books are in fact balanced with a zero at the close of business effectively.
But we lack the idea of making it better, but we just can't be bothered. So what more can we do?